welcome to another episode of Presentation College's Educational Technology video interviews with our instructors talking about cool ways to use technology and good pedagogy in the classroom. With us is Dr. Marie Mallory, Professor of Communications at Presentation College. How are you today, Dr. Mallory?
Fabulous. How are you, Corey?
I'm great, because we get to talk about a really cool course you have called Writing Sports Features, where you're making podcasts.
Yes,
okay.
We are.
It says writing, but you're making podcasts. Why are you teaching podcasts in this story, or this class?
There's a couple of reasons. So that links into writing because they're still having to write out what this podcast is, doing an outline, coming up with the questions, coming up with the content, and writing those things out. So it's still working all of those brain factors in terms of coming up with a story and focusing the story on something and then telling that story, which is what we're doing in writing. And so they're still doing those outlines and coming up with a good lead and working on follow-up questions. And all those sorts of things that you do in writing, good sports writing, good any kind of writing. But there's the other piece of that is that I have students in here who are taking this because they want to be sports journalists or in broadcasting. And because we don't offer broadcasting classes here, this is sort of my one shot to fit all of these skills in for these students that I felt like they needed. So we're just kind of throwing stuff in left and right.
Sure, and so I take it, I mean, you're still teaching all the composition skills, how to tell, like you said, tell a good story, the narrative skills they need, but you're seeing that they're going to need to tell it in these new media.
Exactly.
Interesting. So we'll talk about some more about the products they make, but first, if you're going to teach podcasting, what gear do we need? Hardware, software? What do we need to do to make these podcasts?
So what we're using, which sort of seems to be the industry standard right now, is Audacity.
Okay, Audacity.
Audacity. And it is free, which is a big plus when you're teaching college students. Because it's not something they have to pay for, and they can all have it. So it's not like they have to go to a lab or use a certain computer or something like that, because they can all put it on their own.
And what does Audacity do?
It is audio editing software.
Okay.
And so it can do pretty much anything. You upload any sort of audio that you have to this program. You can go in, edit it. You can add music at the beginning, music at the end. You can cut pieces out. You can take multiple clips and merge them together into one big piece. Pretty much anything you want to do.
So that software does everything, it sounds like.
That.
Can you even record?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So install Audacity and you're covered for software.
You're done. That's the only thing we need.
Okay, so what about the hardware?
Laptop.
Got a laptop, okay.
And actually, some of our students have had good success with using the microphone on their laptops, and most of them are using their cell phones.
Just their phone. You aren't requiring them to use a special boom microphone or anything like that?
No, we have a microphone and a screen, but I've only had one student actually try to use it. The rest of them have all just been using their cell phones. They're setting them on the table, they're holding them, and it's worked perfectly.
So really, to teach podcasts and have students make them, you don't need anything new. It's just the stuff they have, the equipment they're carrying anyway, and one piece of free software.
You got it. And that was sort of the goal. If that were not the case, we maybe wouldn't have tried to do this or integrate this, right? So, but when I went in and looked, and this is something they can go do right now.
Wow.
You can be making podcasts. And they were sort of blown away. They, I think, in their minds thought they had to have some sort of special equipment or things like that. And when I said you can do it with this free software in your cell phone, it was fun.
Sure. So they've got the gear, or it's easy to get the gear. They should already have most of it.
Yes.
What do the students then actually make with the gear? What do these podcasts look like or sound like?
Yeah, right. Well, initially the assignment was to be sports oriented. So they needed to focus on an athlete or a coach or a team or something like that, a season. I've sort of adjusted that because I have probably half of the students in that class who are not interested in going into sports writing or sports broadcasting, but they took the class because they needed the writing skills and those sorts of things. So I still wanted them to get the experience, but I wanted it to be something that they could use in their own field moving forward. If they wanted to continue making podcasts, that they were sort of building a portfolio for themselves. So I changed that midway through
Right.
and said, if you're, a rad tech major and you want to do your podcast on new technologies coming out in rad tech, or if you're in biology and you want to do it on new whatever's going on in biology, I don't know, then I let them sort of pick and choose something. Now, they couldn't just do something totally random, but they
Sure.
could pick something that was specific to their major and what they want to do in their careers, so that they could sort of start building a portfolio with it.
Great. So the students have made these podcasts for you. From the teaching perspective, you get these podcasts. What are your criteria for evaluating them? How does a student get a grade on a podcast?
Well, so there are certain things they have to have. They have to have a good lead, which is, an intro. When you're doing journalism, they call it a lead, which is really just that sort of first sentence, first paragraph that captures attention.
That's their opening
So,
line, the
correct.
things they
Yes,
say to get us into the
thing
story.
that makes you want to not turn it off,
Okay.
or hit scan, or go to the next thing. What the attention getter. So that is a big piece of the criteria. There's a time, they had to be at least 5 minutes, but not more than 6 for this particular
Sure.
podcast. And that too is teaching, not just with the writing, but in all these new mediums that we're using. You can't just ramble forever, and nobody wants to listen to a 2-minute podcast. Right. So there is a time, and kind of teaching them to find that sweet spot for what they're talking about. Long enough to put all the content in, but not enough that you're just rambling or using filler stuff.
Or fitting
And
whatever the time
Right.
standards are. I suppose
Right.
that'll vary from setting to setting.
Right. And some of them, I had one student come up and say, I have so much good content. Can I go to 7 minutes?
Uh-huh.
And I said, so here's the thing. If I get bored at 5 and start thinking, you could have cut half of this out. But if I'm engaged for 7 minutes, I'm not taking all points. Because it does matter. It matters what you're talking about. And, some of them are going to be more difficult. And he had a lot of great interview material in there. So, and it was full, and it was good. So it does matter. But they also have to, for this particular one, they had to have music, intro, and exiting.
Okay.
And it has to be faded in and faded out. It can't be choppy.
Those are kind of a big deal for podcasting?
Yeah,
for
it
listeners?
is. And if you listen to podcasts, you'll sort of hear, it almost makes it like a part of the story. There's like a theme song kind of thing that goes, when you watch television, and there's that theme song that goes, and that sticks in people's head.
Yeah.
You know the theme songs for your favorite shows, and podcasts are sort of the same way. It sort of builds that community,
Sure.
and all that adds to it. So I wanted them to put some thought into, what's the theme here? What is the theme of this podcast? So,
And then how does the music fit in there? 'Cause
And
it's not
how-
just this is my favorite song, it's music
Right.
like you say, there's branding, but there's also, I'm
Right.
picking music that suggests the ideas we're getting into.
exactly.
Boy, that's a really
exactly.
creative task, though. I mean, you're not just writing, but now you're having to stretch out into music
Yes.
and say, how does this music reflect the things
Yeah,
I'm saying?
it's a lot. It's
Wow.
been a big project.
Have students responded well to that?
They have been excellent.
Great.
They have been, and actually they were excited about the music, and they were excited about, and I could hear them talking, and I passed one of them in the hall talking to a friend of his about his theme song, and so, yeah, it's been cool.
Great. So, Dr. Mallory, question from the back of the room. Dr. Mallory, when are we ever going to use this? That's the obvious question. Are students actually going to be able to put these podcasting skills to work when they're done with this class?
Yes,
How
they
so?
definitely are. So my favorite thing about teaching communication is that I don't have to hear that question.
Oh, okay.
Because they get to use it, in general, everything you learn you can use every day. So this is no exception. And I actually had a student last week who had applied for, this dream job that he wanted in journalism with a large sports organization. And he had sent in his application and whatever, and they got back to him and said, do you have any audio or visual that you can send us? And he sent her the vox pop that we made in this class and the podcast that we made in this class, and he got the job.
Wow. From that actual assignment?
From that assignment.
That's great. And
It's amazing.
I assume this organization, they're looking at him, they wanted to see that reel because that's the kind of content he's going to have to generate. Not just writing, but turning it into audio, video, whatever multimedia.
Exactly. And I think it shows them that you have those skills. Even if, maybe he won't be doing podcasts, but he will be working with audio, and he will be working. So it's just this, I can do this.
Sure.
I'm familiar, I know this technology. So even maybe he's not going to be making vox pops or doing podcasts, but he will be working with audio equipment and audio technology and video technology and microphones and all these things. And they know what goes into writing a podcast. They know that there's also some writing ability there. So that one project that you turn in sort of shows audio, visual pieces, writing pieces, all of these things. And they say, oh,
wow.
They've got the goods.
So practical, employable skills just from making a podcast off your phone
With
and
your
a free program.
phone and a free program.
Well, that sounds great. Dr. Mallory, thank you for telling us about teaching podcasting in a writing class. If you have any questions, you can contact Dr. Mallory about how to teach this, what goes into it, what kind of products come out. And if you have any questions about applying podcasting in your classroom, just give us a call here at Presentation College Educational Technology. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.